So good morning or afternoon, I suppose, everyone, depending on where you are. Again, my name is Jay Mezer. I'm a reality capture solution consultant with IMAGINiT Technologies. And before we get started with the demo, I just want to say, first of all, thanks for attending. And second of all, hope we're coming to where everyone is safe and healthy and following all the guidelines that have been put in place. So with that said, let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. Once again, my name is Jay Mezer. My email address there, obviously. You know, I've been working in the AEC industry for over 20 years now. Probably much more than that, more than I care to admit. But over those years, I've done a number of different things when it comes to engineering, software, and hardware. And as you can see there's a couple of credentials where I'm an Autodesk certified instructor. I'm a Civil 3D certified professional. I've spoken at Hexagon Live, teaching the CloudWorks portion of Civil 3D. And just everything I do here at IMAGINiT, I deal with anything to do with reality capture, whether that is on the side of the Autodesk side of the business, where we're dealing maybe with recap or dealing with how to get reality capture data into AutoCAD or Civil 3D or Revit. And again, that can be the recap side of things or the Leica Geosystems side of things, where we're speaking about the hardware and software that has to go, like I'm going to speak about today, that has to go with everything that Leica has to offer on the high definition scanning side of everything that they have to offer. Obviously, also specializing in Civil 3D and how to get that data across into AutoCAD or Civil 3D, and showing folks just how reality capture can benefit their business. So that's just a little about me, and we're going to jump over and start talking about the hardware. And today we're going to speak about the two models of Leica hardware, the BLK360 and the RTC360, respectively, left to right there. And we're going to give you some information about each. I'm going to demo just a couple of quick things about each, and you know, hopefully be able to, by the end of this, answer any questions you guys might have when it comes to Leica and reality capture and the different scanners that they have to offer. So we're going to begin with the BLK360, and if you're not familiar with this product, Leica introduced this a couple of years ago now, I believe at AU when they introduced it. And initially it was paired with Autodesk Recap, and we're going to talk about that as we go forward. But one of the absolute benefits of the BLK360 is that it's small, it's lightweight, it's easy to get around, right? As you can see there by the picture, there's one button on this thing. So if we can't teach you how to use something that has one button, boy, that's really saying something, right? So it's, again, easy enough for almost anyone to pick up. Anybody who can use an iPad to connect to a Wi-Fi connection, they can pick up the BLK360 and they can start using it and scanning with it with a little bit of instruction, right? So when we're looking at this as the front and back of the scanner, again, I pointed out that we have one button here, but let's talk a little bit about the dimension. We're at 6.5 inches high, or 4 inches in diameter. Okay? So that thing is very small. You can pick it up simply with one hand and be able to cart it around. We're looking at the bottom here at 2.2 pounds. And as we speak, I'm holding this in my hand, and it is, it's about that weight. So, again, very simple and easy to get around into any business where maybe you're scanning a architectural building or you're scanning in a mechanical space. You can fit this scanner anywhere, even just as it sits like you see it on the screen. It doesn't necessarily have to have a tripod. So you can talk about that again as we go a little forward. But the scanner itself has 5 megapixel camera lenses, right? And you can see there's 3 of those camera lenses. So as it takes pictures and it spins around, it's using each one of those cameras and then stitching those photos together. Okay? The other thing that the BLK has is really unique to the BLK360 is a FLIR thermal sensor built into the scanner. Okay? This has the ability to give us up to 70 degrees vertical of infrared data. So if you're looking for hot and cold spots within a building, you can use the FLIR thermal sensor to scan and then bring that into the software and find out where those hot and cold temperatures are. Okay. Obviously, battery compartment, I think that's pretty straightforward, that what the battery compartment does, but little tips and tricks for everyone that maybe has a BLK and is trying to find information on it. There is a password hidden inside this battery door if you haven't been able to find that. Okay. And once again, as I stated earlier, we have a single button operation, and we can use that to power on, power off the scanner, and we're able to use that button to start a scan. And the last thing we'll talk about here with regard to its physical condition is the LED sensor at the bottom. You can see that is a green light in the picture. And, you know, the simplicity of this thing really goes a long way when we're talking about somebody learning how to use it. When we get a green light, that's good. We're ready. The scanner is ready to go. When we get a yellow light, the scanner is active, or it's starting up, or it's shutting down. Of course, they also have a red ring indicator to tell you if there's any issues with the scanner, and we don't really want to see any of those red ones. Okay. Built into the BLK360 is a 32 gigabyte hard drive. Okay. So you can scan all day long with this scanner and really still have space left over. I mean, within reason, I suppose, but there is a ton of space built into the scanner where, you know, it should be able to last you the majority of the day. If not, the data is easy enough to remove from the scanner and store again. Some key specs. So when we're looking at the scanner and what it's able to do, 150 megapixel dome, and essentially, what does it cover? Well, it covers 360 degrees horizontally and only 300 degrees vertically. So sometimes the question comes up with why? Why doesn't it capture a full 360 degrees? Well, obviously, the scanner is not able to see beneath itself, so it can't get right underneath itself, leaving us with a little bit of a ring at the bottom where data is not collected. Now, if that data is important to you, it's a simple pick up the scanner and move it, and scan that area again, and the next scan will cover any data that's missed. Okay. I mentioned having in the infrared scanner, being able to capture that 70 degrees vertical of infrared data using the BLK360, right? I think that's a pretty valuable tool. Okay? 3D positional accuracy is 6 millimeters at 10 meters and 8 millimeters at 20 meters, right? And up to 60-meter range. And I did a test with this the other day. Those here in the States, 2 feet to 200 feet. I did a test with this the other day, and I'll be darned if it wasn't right on to about 200 feet where it stopped collecting data. Okay. Now, at a rate we're collecting data of 360,000 points per second. Now, that's impressive for a scanner this size, okay, and at this price point. So when we're talking about 360,000 points per second, we're talking about you being able to take 360,000 measurements each second. So if you had to give you an idea, that's the equivalent of you pulling a tape measure to points across a room at that rate. Simply can't be done with a tape measure or even a laser distance measure tool, right? You might find at a local hardware store. All right, so one of the major features about this is simply wireless connectivity. We're going to talk about this a little more going forward. But while the scanner is scanning, we're not using any sort of on-screen touchpad to run the scanner. As you can see, there is no touch screen. We are connecting to it wirelessly using a tablet. Okay? And we can talk about that here as we go forward a little bit. And then each scan can complete within less than 3 minutes. So depending on the settings we use, we can have it take less time. We can have it take more time. And those are all based around how much you want that point cloud coming from the BLK360. So do you need to collect just every detail within a room, or are you looking for a general layout of a room? Those things are going to have an effect on the amount of time it takes the scanner to complete each scan. You also may walk into a room and say, boy, the point cloud is more than enough information for me. I don't need it to take pictures. So you may not take pictures in a particular space. Those types of things are going to lessen time it takes for the BLK to go ahead and finish each one of its scans. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about its operational workflow and things that the scanner is capable of. When we go ahead and use the BLK, and we're talking about using it with an iPad, okay? So we're connected to that iPad, again, via a wireless connection. Essentially, the BLK360 emits a Wi-Fi signal where you would connect to it like you would any Wi-Fi hotspot or any Wi-Fi connection you might have in your home. The big difference here is we're obviously not going to be surfing the internet while connected to a BLK360. But with that said, we're able to use the iPad to collect data and control the settings that I was speaking of just a few moments ago. We're able to control the density of our scans. We're able to control whether we take pictures or not. Are those going to be HDR pictures or not? And we're able to control details like inserting geotags into a scan. Okay, now we can talk about geotags a little bit later, but these are all things that we're able to do by pairing our Leica equipment here with an iPad. Okay. And so as we move along here, I want to talk a little bit about, how this works. So the scans are automatically and wirelessly synced to the iPad during field operations. So what that means to you is we're keeping the iPad relatively close to where the scanner is, and that data is, as it's collected, wirelessly transmitting back to the iPad, storing all of that scan data on your iPad. Okay? So I'm sure the question will come up, do I need to have a really big iPad or really a lot of space on that iPad? And the answer to that is sort of. Remember, we're only able to collect 32 gigabytes of data. So if you're out scanning for a day, you may decide that that's enough and you import the data. And then you may find projects that you're scanning over the course of a week, and you may need to remove some of the data by the end of the week. But at the end of the day, I have a 256 gigabyte iPad, and I can't remember the last time I had to pull the data off of it to make anything fit. So what's the benefit of pairing this with an iPad and using just a simple play button? So one of the things is using the Profitability app. The app is going to automatically register, and I say automatically. There is one button you might have to push to assist in the registration of that, but ultimately, the iPad does most of the work most of the time. And I'm sure there are folks out there right now saying, that's not true. I'm telling you that we're able to have the iPad do most of the work most of the time. There are times where, hey, look, we need to intervene, and we'll need to go ahead and manually register. But the nice thing about that is we can do that in the field. And with the Cyclone Field 360 app, we can do that through a visual registration. Okay? And so scan by scan, as we go ahead and complete our project, our data is already put together, already registered. So when we import, we don't have to do that registration process in the office. It should be already done for us. Okay? So we're collecting instant measurements and 3D visualization. Now, I like to pause on this one for a moment because we can talk about the individual points, and I mentioned how many points per second that it's collecting. But I like to talk about that 3D visualization there, because I know from many, many years ago, my experience in engineering firms was that often people didn't have any idea where a project was, where it was located in the real world, or even, been to a project to see it. And they're actually designing and drafting these projects. So one of the things that the BLK offers is that 3D visualization, where we can virtually put any user that has never been to a project into that project and have them be able to stand at each scan location, spin around 360 degrees, and be able to see what the project looks like. Okay? And I think that's a very important tool for a lot of people. And so I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what comes with and what doesn't come with the BLK. The BLK360 here, initially the scanner itself is what you're purchasing, but there is an available accessory pack that allows us to go ahead and make use of that scanner in different ways. And so what we're talking about when it comes to that accessory pack is the tripod. It folds flat and fits with the bag that you see there.
And we'll jump into looking at the RTC. RTC was released about a year and a half, 2 years ago. It is one of the fastest scanners on the market. When it comes to being able to capture very, very crisp, clean data, very accurate, very quick, this is a unit we want to look at. So if we start looking through here, go ahead and give an overview of this unit. The unit is very, very well built. It's all aluminum housing. This unit is spitting and collecting data much faster than any other scanner. Like I said, aluminum housing, side covers, dimensions about 4.5 by 9.5 by 9 inches. It's not too big. If those of you that remember carrying the aluminum metal lunch boxes to school when we were younger, it's about that size. It's not much bigger than that. It does weigh a little bit more than that, but you know, with the batteries, 2 batteries, it weighs in about 11 pounds. So that's about 9 pounds more than the BLK, but it does a lot more than the BLK. The mounting, we do typically mount this on the tripod. It is an accessory, but I can mount this to any standard wooden tripod with an adapter. Some people like to go that way. If you do, it does add weight. That's the negative. We can go with the fiberglass tripod or the wood tripod with the adapter. It's going to add some weight. It kind of does limit some of the portability of this, but it can be done. Data acquisition, on a medium setting, we're talking less than 2 minutes. That's at about a 6 millimeter at 10 meter range. For those of us that want to do the quick math in our head, that's about 1/4 of an inch at 33 feet. The actual spec on that's about 1 minute and 51. If we run that on a higher speed, that'll get us 3 millimeter at 10 meter, which is about 1.22 inches, or excuse me, yeah, 0.122 inches, which is about 1/8 of an inch. So it does increase the time to 2 minutes and 42 seconds, which is still faster than any other scanner. Looking at a lot of the things, I saw a question pop up there. We'll get to the questions here in a few minutes. It does have real-time registration, and it's doing that based off the VIS tracking system. That VIS tracking system is made up of the GNSS satellite along with the 5 VIS cameras along with the altimeter and compass. Those two to get all those 4 items together get us the VIS. Basically, it tracks where we are outside to within 3 to 6 feet of where we actually are. This will not set it, the GNSS will not set it to known control, so that's not a possibility, unfortunately. But when I get inside, it gets a lot better, mainly because those 5 cameras are attaching themselves and assigning an XYZ coordinates on all of our sharp corners. That's how it's tracking us. We get down to quarter inch to half inch accuracy. When I put all this together in the iPad, I'm now running much, much, much tighter, and my registration is so much easier. It does have a minimum range and a max range. Minimum range is about 1/2 meter, or 18 inches or so, and the max is about 300 some odd feet. Now, this is the only scanner on the market that will capture 2 million points per second. Your P30s, your P40s, they're at 1 million points per second. Your BLK is down at 320. So it is capturing a lot more data. So looking at the different resolutions of the RTC scanner, we have 3 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 12 millimeter. basically 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. Those are actual run times with the scan and images. So if you figure 1 minute and 51 seconds just scanning, just scanning, it's 1 minute and 51 seconds. That is no photographs. If I add the photographs, it's about 242. On a 6mm scan, which is a medium setting, that's getting me 51-second data only, or 1 minute and 51 for pictures. And then the last one's 26 seconds, 1:26. So the pictures really only take about 1 minute, and those are HDR. Now, so getting into a little bit deeper, this is how the RTC is measuring points. So when it's hitting those reflective surfaces, you're seeing that with this RTC, you are getting a much, much, much better point cloud on all of the surfaces. Now, the HDR spherical images, it is fast. Those of you that have run HDR imagery on even the BLK360 or the P series or competitor scanners, those HDR pictures take a while, all right? These pictures take 1 minute, and that is full HDR, all right? So it's high dynamic. So from the bright sunlight to the darkest, we don't have to worry about adjusting any of those settings. It's doing it automatically for us. All right. So you'll notice that what we did was we took a scan of the RTC sitting inside of that room. And once that scan is done, with that little bit of light coming through the door, you're going to notice that I was able to go in and adjust the brightness on each scan in the app. I can also do this in the Register360 software. So, you know, we've all, for those of you that have scanned before, we've all run into a situation where there just wasn't enough light after we did the scan, and we're going to take the pictures anyway, and it was really dark. The pictures just didn't turn out. You know what? If we got just a little bit of light, that's all we need, because I can always grab my slide bar and adjust those in real time. So when we did that, if you look over on the left-hand side of the screen, you really didn't see those duct penetrations coming up under that unit. But if we adjust the brightness and zoom in, that's what we were able to see. Now, let's get into the Viz system. So, as I said before, that Viz system is going to know where we are inside of that building after the first scan. Once we've done that, as soon as that scan is done and we pick that scanner up and move it, it's going to start tracking where I am inside that space. So the Viz system cameras, there are 2 on each side and 1 on the top, is actually tracking and showing all that information. So see how I did that kind of quick. You'll notice that as it sees that information, it's saying, hey, it's assigning that XYZ coordinate to those points. So it's allowing us to run through. Now, as we do that, it's keeping track everywhere we go. This is an example of that Viz system keeping track of where I'm at. So, let me get this to play. There we go. So, unfortunately, I can't take credit for this. I do think this is the coolest thing that we're going to see all day. But basically, as they scan, they picked that scanner up when it was done, and now I'm walking through, and you can actually see it tracking as I move from outside to inside, tracking spaces, tracking that information. So this is a really good illustration of being able to see that information. All right. Now, when we're in the field, a lot of people talk about on-site registration. There's different ways to do on-site registration. To us, the best way to do it is via tablet. It's a lot lighter than a laptop. I don't have to plug it in. It's just wirelessly connected to the RTC. What I can do is I can utilize that tablet to view the data, to register, give the final approval of registration of that data. I'm seeing everything on my tablet before I leave the field. So that way I know I've got what I needed. Okay. So once I confirm the registration and everything on the tablet, all that data is now stored on the RTC thumb drives itself. It is not stored on the tablet. That's different than the BLK. From the RTC, we then would move into taking that off of the thumb drive, or taking thumb drive out, putting it into the computer, downloading the data to the computer, and then importing that data into Cyclone Register 360. This data will only come into Cyclone Register 360 and Cyclone Register. This data will not import into the BLK edition. So let's take a look at the tablet for a minute. Okay. Again, I kind of covered this real quick, but this is going to give the user the ability to view it, check it, add to it. Okay. When I say add, not just scans, I can add additional information. For instance, if I'm a mechanical individual, okay, and I'm going out and I'm scanning my mechanical rooms, and I'm doing an HVAC renovation, I've got to take out air handling units, put new ones back, but I got to know what's there. I can scan it. Well, when the scan's done, I can actually go create an asset using the app, take a picture of the nameplate, attach that image to the point cloud, and have that embedded into the scan, so that when I get back to the office, instead of somebody having to take the time to write all that information down, I just take a picture of it. Now, the quality is 100% up to you. All right, I can take a video, I could write it, I could type it in, or whatever, but I can add that asset to the point cloud, and now that information is always in that point cloud. One thing that is an advantage here is this can be used either on an iPad or an Android device. They do not require cellular service. Wi-Fi is fine. Once we've done the iPad, we've confirmed it, we've done all that, I get back to the office, I pull the thumb drive out, stick it in the computer. Basically, all I need to do is drag and drop it. I'm done. Drag, drop, hit import, I'm done. It does take a few minutes to import the data, but again, it's very, very, very simple, streamlined workflow. All right, so we've kind of touched on all this. One thing I do want to add is that the Field 360 app is tied to your Register 360 software license entitlement ID. So with every one Cyclone Register 360 software, you get 5 free license of the app, and that is controlled through the cloud. So looking at this, this is just kind of a quick workflow, a typical workflow that we can use. With the Field 360 and RTC, we take that data. Ultimately, it has to go into Cyclone Register 360. From there, I can put it out as an LGS file. That LGS file is a proprietary file type that Leica has developed over the past 18 to 24 months. That LGS file will go into CloudWorks, it'll go into Jetstream, and it'll also go into the TrueView. With that said, I can also publish directly to, from Register360, publish directly into Jetstream, or publish directly into TrueView, and work with that data either way. All right. I apologize for kind of jumping around. I just saw this PowerPoint about 20 minutes ago. So we'll get in here, talk about the Field360 app a little bit. Field360, again, it's going to give us a couple different views. We're going to have a map view in there. That is basically our 2D floor plan. We also have the 360 view, which is going to give us the opportunity to view the photographs in a panoramic situation directly on the iPad while I'm in the field. If you look to the far right-hand side, you see that slide bar. That slide bar is what is going to adjust the brightness of that point cloud or of that photograph on the fly. Or I can have it set right up above that as an icon to have it automatically adjust as I zoom into dark areas. In this view, I can also create tags, or I call them assets. Like I said a while ago, I can take a picture of an air handling unit, nameplate, attach it to this picture so that when I open up the point cloud in Register360 or Jetstream or the Jetstream viewer, that tag information is there. I can also measure in this view. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out is with the Field360 app, the Field360 app only, I can view, I know I'm backing up a little bit, I can view and measure temperature from the BLK. I don't know if Jay was able to cover that, but just thought I would throw that in. So then we come in here to the 3D view. All right. It's not very often that we get to view the point cloud in a 3D view while we're in the field. I can view this in true color, or I can view it in white only. Not quite sure what that is about, but you can. So know that as your option. One thing I did want to point out that we forgot to put in here is in the lower left-hand corner, there is a fairly new tool. It's been out a little bit, but I am now able to take and fly through the point cloud using the fly-through tool. The navigation is a lot like a video game, but it does allow me to do that navigation. So looking at how the Field360 app works when we're in the field, all right, and we're using the Viz tracking. It's keeping track of where we're at. Really, what we're going to do here is this is going to allow for the improved overall productivity, because I'm doing all this work as the scanner's going. You know, some people go, I'm going to wait a little bit. They'll do 5, 10, 15 scans. They'll go back while the scanner's going and start putting those scans and confirming that they are registered together. You can see your overlap, the completeness, and quality. All right. So adding those assets, like I said before, I can do photo, video, audio, text, document. So I can attach it to pretty much anything I want to inside of there, and it automatically synchronizes back to the RTC. All right. So lightweight preview objects, it's they're generated on the RTC, and it's always transferred to the tablet, but that data is always stored on the scanner itself, not on the RTC. So if you have a smaller gigabyte size iPads, I think they were 32, 64 and on up. If you got a smaller, that's okay. I don't need a whole lot of space. So this is one of the slides that I do want to spend a minute on, because not all scanners are created equal. There's a different scanner for different jobs. We will be talking about, next week, we're also doing another presentation focused only on the new BLK2Go. I will be doing that one, and we're going to get into the details about how that technology works, the specifications on that, and actually show some data that we've collected over the last couple weeks. So looking at this image speed, it's all, you know, the BLK, the RTC, they're all pretty close to a minute, but you'll notice the P series, that goes up significantly. Scan speed, I mean, I'm not going to go through and read all of this. You guys can probably read this for yourself. But you'll notice one of the things I want to point out here is all of them are IP54 rated, closed mirrors. But notice that your different ranges, right? If all you're doing is, you know, MEP, architectural, you know, even exterior buildings, the BLK, RTC, great units to do buildings. But if I've got to do a big bridge, I'm probably going to need something a little bit more robust in the way of range, and that's when we start looking at the P-series scanners. All right. So now we're going to jump into the software side of it. Basically, once I grab that RTC data, I drag and drop it in the upper left-hand corner. All I need to do now is start working with that data. So the registration, or the Register360, has really simplified and made this more of a workflow, like a flow chart. You'll notice at the top of the software, I basically have 4 tabs: import, review and optimize, finalize, report. That is our workflow process. Using the software, I import the data, drag and drop it. So I hit the import tab. I now can choose whether I'm going to use BLK data, RTC data, or even the BLK2Go data. I grab that data, it starts showing it to me. I hit import, and I'm off and running. Once that data is imported, now I move to step 2, which is the review and optimize. And in here, this is where, if we look, I can start going in and looking at the properties of each setup. I can start viewing all of the data in their bundles. I can come in here, I can clean data. Oops, let me back up. I clean data. So review and optimize is probably where you're going to spend 90% of your time. I set my UCS, if I want to set a UCS here, if I want to clean point clouds here, if I've got some point clouds that maybe I captured with a BLK, and I want to combine them with the data that I captured from the RTC. Well, this is where I would do it. I could come select those 2 scans, visually register them together, move on. So once all that's done, we optimize, then we move to the finalize tab, which is step 3, and then we move to the reporting tab. And the reporting tab, it is what it is. It's where we report. It's where we show our accuracies in a report based I can customize these reports. Gives me pretty much all the information that, your title, who did it, when did they do it, your company information, your company logo, and then I'm able to publish these reports out. This is also where I publish the data. Do I want to publish it to an LGS file? Do I want to publish it to TrueView, Jetstream? Or do I want to publish it to your PTS, PTX, E57s, and RCPs? So I can do all of that from the Publish tab. So unfortunately, I have to skip the demo part because I didn't have anything really ready for this. But if you contact me, jbowers@rand.com, we could probably work something out this week or next.